list of details that we could say we would have different, but somehow Mercedes-Benz through time seems to always improve. The cues on the exterior of the S63 that display the AMG side can be seen for the most part on the lower clip of the car. In the back, you have an aggressive rear bumper fitted with quad polished AMG exhaust tips and a variable valve exhaust. In the side profile, you have satin metal side skirt inlays, and you'll find that same satin finish in a gorgeous front chin spoiler with little functional outboard finlets that guide air to cool the lightweight two-piece brake rotors. This specific car is fitted with the optional 20-inch forged wheels in a stunning polished finish, and I think it's important to note that even from the late 60s, independently tuning and building Mercedes-Benz engines to when they officially became part of Mercedes-Benz, AMG engineers have focused quite a bit on engine development. They take pride in badging each motor with the name of the individual who built it, and for a lot of people, including myself, the motor has always been the crown jewel of an AMG branded car. For example, take a look at the confidence Pagani has in AMG engines, and for the brand itself, the Zonda, Zonda R, and the all-new Huayra use an AMG V12, so in that capacity they power one of the wildest hypercar brands on earth. Replacing the beloved naturally aspirated 6.2-liter V8, otherwise called the M156, the new smaller force-fed twin-turbo 5.5-liter V8 coated M157 in the current S63 has 550 horsepower and 664 pound-feet of torque. Considering we just reviewed the 2014 S550 in full detail, our focus here will be to highlight features unique to the S63 and changes made for 2015. They have added an all-new center-mounted touchpad to navigate the command system, which is actually pretty intuitive and natural to use. The 360 camera system appears to have the best rendering and resolution of the different views in cameras than any car we've ever tested, apart from some of the new BMWs. And the full LED lighting system of the interior is absolutely second to none. When we go through the interior in detail, you'll notice even during the day, the bold look of the lighting system really sets the S-Class apart, and with this Diseño diamond white laid over white Napa leather, the LEDs properly shine. The day we tested this car, there was some rain, so it was very interesting to see how the 4Matic system managed all that torque. Okay, for the interior detail portion of this S63, we have the benefit of having already reviewed the S550, which shares a lot of the same features, and we'll talk about what's different for 2015. So here's the key. This is obviously the main key because it has that sort of stainless steel Falterbach symbol in the center. It's the main key. It is a keyless entry system. Of course, with the new 5.5-liter twin turbo V8s, they all get the insignia. And this car shares some other features with some of the other AMG models, but we'll talk about what separates it in the S-Class. So you do have this gorgeous entry when you come into the new S-Class, and in the case of the S63, you get this nice LED, white LED AMG kicksteel plate in steel. It's really cold today in Houston, so I'm gonna get in here, and of course keyless entry system, so I'm gonna stow the key away down here, push start, and as you can see from basically from the lighting that there is now, obviously when it gets darker it's a lot nicer, but you can see that ambiance with the LED lighting, and that wraps around everywhere into the back. Now the S63 has a lot of sort of AMG specific features once you get inside. The steering wheel itself, at the bottom it has this AMG symbol. Instead of having the Mercedes-Benz logo here, it says AMG. The font for the instrument cluster is different. The analog clock is special. In the case of this S63, it does have the exclusive trim package, which gives you this gorgeous leather inset in the dash with perforations, diamond cut perforations, and it's sitting over this black ash wood with matching sort of porcelain piping, which is amazing. In this combination, this is probably the best specified S63 I've ever seen, with the white outside, white interior. You do have diamond stitching patterns in the seats. This car does have the rear climate, rear zone climate, and then some other options. This car has a very, very long list of options. It does not have that 3D Burmester sound, which would give you that rotating speaker up here, and of course like 1,000 more watts of power, audio power. Nothing different between the door panel of this car and the S550 we just reviewed. So you do have your comfort control for the seats here, and pushing this button will let you control the passenger. Your memory switches, same Burmester treble speaker in the door. You have your seat. I believe it's a 12-way adjustable seat, and the same traditional controls. And actually this sort of setup and look and feel of all the buttons, from what we understand, is going to carry over from 2015 onto the rest of the Mercedes lineup. So lower to that, you have your door unlock and lock, of course, window mirror and window controls. This car does have the rear shades for the passenger, so you have to first put the shades down, then put the window down. And again, anything that we don't go into detail here in this review of this S63, we go into heavy detail, in an hour, almost an hour review for the S550. So any question you might have left with this review is definitely going to be answered with the 550. Down below you have your trunk switch. This car does have some safety features. You have your Distronic Plus, your lane keeping safety feature. So if you move and drift into lanes, it'll vibrate to a haptic feedback to let you know. Your Parktronic sensors, and your 360 camera. So the 360 camera, if you push it, it'll give you a look around the car here, all around, which is sort of stitches together with, from what I understand, 6 cameras. So back to the steering wheel. This car is equipped with this AMG Performance steering wheel, which in the handle portion has this microfiber Dynamica inset, which feels fantastic. It's really comfortable in the hands, especially if you're doing spirited driving. One thing which we do go over this navigation set of buttons that controls the instrument cluster based menus. We go through that in detail on the 550, but one thing I should point out is that in the S63 and in the AMG cars, you do have this AMG performance window, which you can cycle through, and it gives you a graphic of the car, and the car that's in there is 63 specific, as you can see here as well, 63 specific. So that AMG menu in there is nice. Moving over here to the infotainment is basically the same. So not to go into too much detail as we did with the S550, which took a lot of time, we're just going to show you what's different specifically about this one. So going down here, the infotainment is all the same. The controls for the climate is all the same as the 550. Moving down, the storage compartment here is the same as the 550, so operation of that, the CD changer and the cup holder is the same. All of these buttons are pretty much the same. Your suspension button, you do have sport and comfort, and that is the AMG tuned adaptive suspension. So you do have 2 modes there. Your drivetrain control, so you can control that. You can put it in sport, you can put it in controlled efficiency, and manual. What's cool about doing this, look at the graphic. If you go into controlled efficiency, you see a road. If you go into sport, you see a road with no lanes, sort of but what might appear to be a track or windy road. And then when you go into manual, it shows you a racetrack, which is pretty cool. And the other thing I noticed, a little detail, odd little thing that I appreciate. You see these 2 dials in the AMG window, which give you temperatures of your liquids.
there's a reflection of them. I don't know if you can see it. There's a reflection of them there, which gives this the perception of depth. So it's a nice little feature. So moving down from these buttons, obviously they're as I said, the same as the 550. So we'll pretty much just point out that you have your direct seat button here, navigation, radio, hazard light, media for Bluetooth, memory card, whatever else media you might have, CD, telephone, and your vehicle settings. So you can turn the display on and off directly with this button. Your volume is a rotating knurled knob here, which has a very tactile feel. And this is your auto start stop feature for when you're stopped and you want to be more fuel efficient. It'll turn the car off. But here's the main difference right here. With the 2015 models, you have this new, what they call like a touchpad, but it does more than touchpad. There's a lot of gesture controls. You can rotate as if you were rotating the knob. So for example, right now I can, if I swipe left and right, it'll cycle through those menus there. But let's say, for example, I go into vehicle settings. Right now we're in vehicle settings. So I can push down, just like you push the knob down, the command knob, I can push this down and it'll take me into that selection. So let's go into ambient lighting. And I'm doing this by simply swiping right. So we go into ambient lighting. Again, I push down on the touchpad to select. And instead of swiping, look, if I swipe left and right, the color is not changing. However, if I grab it like a knob and rotate it, it switches as if I was rotating the knob. So you do have a lot of gesture controls. And you can see that the ambient light changing when I change that. There's 7 different colors you can choose from, I guess, on whatever scene or whatever pleases your eye. But you can see that that's how they've transferred this motion of this command to another option with the touchpad. You do have your favorites over here and a back button. So pushing this will give you your favorites, sort of a little quick favorites option. So if I push this right now, my favorites come up. The favorites has 2 levels of options. One, what's going on behind the selected main menu option. So if I can be more clear, you see there's two steps here. Swiping once down will take that first menu away so you can get to other favorites you have set. So I can swipe left and right now to get to other sources. The other thing they've done is they've put a natural motion into pulling up that favorites menu. So by natural motion, I mean 2-finger swipe up pulls up the favorites menu. So that little hand motion I did pulled up the favorites menu. However, if I try to do the same 2-finger motion in a sort of odd calculated approach, nothing happens. They've engineered a way to keep your motions natural. So that's a really, really awesome feature. And you can program different things here for your favorites, people, radio stations, media, sources, navigation, map, whatever you want, you can store here on the favorites. So that's the main difference here. This new control panel, which does pinch, zoom, and all sorts of things that are new. So I can zoom in with the navigation here with just this touchpad. So it gives you another option to navigate through the command system. Moving back from that, you have your glove compartment with your nice embossed Affalterbach logo, which feels fantastic. All of this leather feels fantastic, and there's contrast stitching throughout the cabin. So you do have a lightning connector, which is really short, and storage here. And then moving up into the top stack, we go through all of the function of the sunroof and the 550 in detail. But this is your shade and sunroof control, your rear roof and your main sunroof control. You have storage for sunglasses and traditional switches you would see in any other S-Class up here. You do have that microfiber Dynamica type material all over the roof in this car. It stretches everywhere. Gorgeous finishes all over. and all LED lighting interior. And this car is equipped with a moon roof, so you have a full roof up top. So from this point, anything you might have a question about, we suggest you go watch the S550 review, and we go through every single one of these things in detail. But from here, we're gonna go sit in the back seat, sit in the passenger seat, look at the fuel compartment, look in the trunk, and look in the engine bay, and get to the driving portion, which is probably the most exciting portion. So the trunk is operated via this switch here. We're gonna make sure the doors are unlocked to make sure the fuel door opens. The hood opening latch is located down here. Storage in the trunk is deep and plentiful. Let's see what's stored below here. This is an extra start-stop switch, so if you have keyless go, you can use one of these to put in there, and they've given us an extra one of these. So nice storage in the back. You do have a safety function in case somebody gets stuck to open the trunk, and it is obviously automatic function, so you can push that button and it auto closes. So if the doors are unlocked, as we did before we exited, this is just a push open fuel door. It has a traditional cap. You can lock that. Entering the back cabin is probably the best place in this car. All the doors are soft touch, so you can just sort of latch them and they'll close on their own. So back here is probably one of the most comfortable places in the car. And a nice feature about this S63, this front seat does all sorts of tricks to make the rear passenger very comfortable. So for example, on a long trip, you can push the seat all the way up to make a sort of reclined and a place for your feet to rest. And that's done via this switch here. So I can hold this button and the seat will engage a position that will sort of have a footrest come out of the bottom of the front passenger seat where you can lay down and relax, and I'll show you that here in a second. So a little footrest ejects from the bottom of the seat once the seat is done getting into position. So the seat moves up completely out of your way. And a footrest comes out. Once the footrest is out, you can just rest your feet for a long trip and just relax. So you can see why the back passenger compartment is one of the best in the new S-Class amongst all of the luxury cars, no matter the price. You do have all the features you would imagine in an extreme luxury handcrafted sedan, and probably a lot more. You do have climate control for the back passengers, cup holders, storage in the center here, storage back here, which can be optioned a little different, I believe. Shades all around, window shades in the front, window shade in the back, all controllable via the rear passenger or the front. And it's just overall an incredible place to be. So let's go into the front passenger, look in the engine. Front passenger has the same entryway with the light up logo and the kick seal. You have the same seat control as the driver with the adjustments. You do have the creature comforts for heating and cooling and the memory control. Everything else is the same as the driver. Seating position is very comfortable. Again, the new S-Class interior cabin is just unreal. It's gorgeous all around. All the features are calculated. All the features are luxurious. And everything just sort of fits together very well. It's amazing to see where they're going to go from here. But let's look at that 5.5 liter twin turbo V8 and take this car for a test drive. There's one man, one engine. Here it is, 5.5 liters, twin turbo V8. So let's drive the new S63 and see how this big tank feels on the road. Okay everyone, so this is the driving portion of the 2015 Mercedes-Benz S63 AMG. Obviously it's a US car, so it's in 4Matic configuration. We have the new 5.5 liter twin turbo V8. In the case of this S63, it's pushing 577 horsepower and 664 foot-pounds of torque at an incredible 2250 RPM. So you have a mind-blowing, staggering amount of torque very, very, very soon in the RPM band. So right now it's wet and it's cold in Houston. I mean, cold will obviously help us with air density and creating a little bit more power, but with it wet like this, it won't be easy to put that power down. However, in all conditions, the S63 is comfortable, is confident. The dynamic AMG seats feel fantastic when you're swaying about. Overall, this car feels absolutely stunning. I mean, just quiet. It doesn't really have any negative tendencies. One thing I should note, it is an automatic transmission. Instead of a torque converter, it has a what they call multi-clutch technology, or it's a wet startup clutch. That thing, when you start to move in this car, you do sense that difference. I can't pinpoint how to describe it, but you do feel, the moment it begins to move, you do feel a little bit of a, really it's hard to describe. I don't want to call it a vibration, but you feel that MCT kicking in, and it feels, once it gets going, you have the same automatic transmission you would have on a typical car, but a very, obviously an AMG tuned, very, very hefty transmission, but it's generally an automatic transmission from that point on, beyond the MCT. But overall, when you want to put it in sport mode, like right now we're going to put it in manual, I'm going to put the suspension in sport, you do get a very fantastic shifting sensation, very, very responsive. Up downs are very, very quick. So overall, I'm not sure that a true dual clutch manual box is any better than what's here. It's just fantastic all around. You don't even press the gas and there's more torque than you know what to do with. The 4Matic system in the AMG cars distributes 2/3 of the power to the rear and 1/3 of the power to the front. The traction control system, electronic traction control system, is a 4-wheel drive traction control system. So it's monitoring all the wheels and accordingly adjusting to keep you safe, depending on what setting you have the drivetrain in some cases very, very spirited. But it is a 4-wheel electronic traction control system. So we'll see how that traction control system does here. You get nice throttle blips on downshifts. You do get a nice sound, like a popping sound when the gears are changing up, which is fantastic. And it tells me when to shift. Gives me an up insignia, which is awesome. Downshift. And with this wet road, believe it or not, my traction control light still hasn't turned on. All around great. This doesn't have carbon ceramic brakes, but the brakes feel fantastic. We haven't taken it to any kind of racetrack yet or anything to see if they fade under heavy load, but we've never experienced any kind of fading. Balances well. Everything else, it performs well. The luxury, it tips off well. I mean, this car does so many things so damn good. You just can't ignore it. If you're in the market for a car like this, this is really the direction you should be looking.